Welcome back to the Worth Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Erika Worth, and this is episode number 12. Friends, it's finally time for me to bring my husband on the show. I asked him to share with you about what his body partnership journey has entailed over the last month. This is a lot more than just a race to a certain body composition. His story is one that began in a lot of body shame, self-hatred, yo-yo dieting, guilt, and food addiction. And he's learning the power of the mantra, you cannot hate your body to heal it. For the first time ever, he has found a why that is sustainable and wants to make healing a way of life. And he's going to help us understand exactly what that means and how he's doing that and what differences he has noticed in all areas of his life. I am a firm believer that to the degree that we love and respect and show up for and advocate for our own bodies is the degree we can do that for others. So it's absolutely critical that we learn how to do this for ourselves if we want to show up in the most powerful way for those we love. My husband will speak to this as well. It's transforming not only himself, but the way he parents his son and our marriage and how he thinks about what he wants out of life in general and future goals and dreams. So I think you're going to be inspired and encouraged. It was fun to record the show with my husband from our living room, and I hope you enjoy it as well. All right, without any further ado, let's get to the show. All right, Clean Keto Warrior, welcome to the show.
Oh, I just saluted. You couldn't see that. But it's great to be here in our living room.
Yes, it's awesome. It's great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. It's been a long day at work, so we're doing this at the end of the day. So, our brains are a little gone, if you would say. So, bear with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know for those that follow you on Instagram, you've been documenting your journey over the last month, and it would be, I think, just a perfect opportunity to share the full story over the podcast with the listeners of the Worth Wellness Podcast. So I wanted to bring you on and thought it would be great if you could start with sharing just the background and the history. So we have an idea of where you're coming from.
Yep, I can do that. So, when I was little, I was born, and I began my relationship with food, and it was a very standard way of eating. You got fast food, you got your pizza, pastas, candy, cookies, all the stuff. And from a young age, we had that all the time. It was just the standard way of living and never really thought anything of it. And as I was growing up in like middle school, high school, one thing that really stuck out to me was, and I didn't really realize it till now, was I had a milk allergy, and I was consistently sick in middle school every other week, like clockwork. It never stopped. And I eliminated milk and I stopped getting sick. So that was very interesting, but that didn't come into play until very recently in understanding what I'm starting to understand now, which we'll get into later. After that, in high school, I weighed about 155 my sophomore year, and my junior and senior year, I started lifting weights like crazy. I lived at the gym. I did, the standard gym diet mixed with other stuff. But I put on 55 pounds of muscle. And so I was above 200 pounds, and I was stronger than all get out, but I could not lose stubborn fat. And I loved food, so that made it extremely tough. And, what you're taught as you're growing up is just, you know, my food pyramid. Like, that's what I knew. That was what was accessible to me. And so anyway, I graduated high school. I started in college, and I started putting on more and more weight. Uh, I was at a community college, and I transferred to Oregon State University. Don't worry, I'm not a Beaver fan. I went there for other reasons, which we won't talk about. But I was at my highest weight at the time. I think I was probably 230, 240, somewhere in there. I don't remember. It was a while ago. And I got a roommate. He'd been my neighbor when we were kids, and he was my roommate along with another guy, but he was in the Army ROTC program, and he got me into the civilian version of the Army ROTC program. And so I went into that, and I continued my eating the way that I did. And he talked to me one day and was like, "Hey, look, you're not going to lose this weight unless you stop eating this crap. Download MyFitnessPal and track your food. Let's, and let's figure out a caloric goal for you to meet." So I cut everything, all the crappy food, and I ate, healthy processed foods. I mean, if there's such thing. And I was eating 12 to 1400 calories a day. I wasn't eating past 7. I was chugging a gallon at least of water a day. And I was working out Army ROTC 3 times a week. And I was working out 2 to 3 times a day and stretching like crazy every day. And I lost a ton of weight. I went from the 240s down to right around 180 was my lowest. And I felt really good. I felt very good. But once again, my weight loss was an external thing, trying to prove something to someone. And so I never cut my ties to sugar at all, because I was still eating, like protein bars and, smoothies and shakes and other stuff like that. And I also didn't know like that I had other food allergies that I was still eating at the time, which I didn't find out till this past couple months. But I lost the weight. I quit going to Oregon State. I came back up, and I started working, and I put on about 10 pounds. I ended up getting married, and I put on probably about 20 pounds in our marriage. And then we got divorced, and I lost a ton. I mean, I didn't lose weight. I gained a ton of weight back. I was literally in shame mode and, depressed mode, and, really zero motivation to do anything. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner was pizza. I had chocolate, cookies, candy, anything, you name it. I wasn't thinking. When you're going through something like that, you don't think. Like buying a brand new truck doesn't make any sense, which is what I did shortly after I was divorced. And so I gained a ton of weight. I went up to probably my highest weight I've ever been. I went up to 250 pounds, and that was terrible. I did not feel good. I had acid reflux. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, burping up whatever I ate, and it was miserable. And it was not fun at all. I would do little spurts of like, a little bit of working out here or there to try and balance out my weight. It might be 5-6 pounds, but then I'd be right back to where I was. 6 months after.
I'm just going to jump in here. I have a question for you. So as your weight fluctuated up and down kind of from in an extreme way from college on to getting married and then divorced. What was your emotional life climate? What did that look like? How did that fluctuate, or did it fluctuate with the weight?
Um, well, yeah, it did. Like after I started gaining the weight back, and especially after the divorce, it was a dark place. Like I wasn't worthy of anything. I didn't matter. Literally all I needed to do was take care of my son, like, and I didn't care about myself. I wasn't important. I wasn't a priority, and I didn't care. Like I thought broken, single, divorced, screw up. I mean, any shame word you can think, I was throwing at myself, and I was throwing on myself, and I hated myself. And then, I'm looking in the mirror, and there's this one picture. I was at the beach with my son, and I'm wearing this green shirt, and I'm just like, I was embarrassed of that picture. I'm like, what is that? That's me. That's really what I look like. That's embarrassing. And so, more shame talk, when I'm walking, I see the shadow, or I see a reflection. Like, I always had a beard because it was a way for me to hide my shame in my weight, because it gave me like definition of my face. Versus when I was skinny, I didn't care if I shaved my face. Like I looked good, I felt. And so, yeah, it's just a very dark place. And like, it's just fueled by, I hated that I ate this food. So the way that I'm going to combat that is I'm going to eat more food because I'm angry about what I did. And it just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's like, it feels impossible to get out. And then, throw being way in debt. And I mean, it's like you're dropped in the middle of the ocean and like, okay, swim. Where do I go? That's what I felt like. I'm like, I got to take care of a kid. I've got to get out of this debt, and I'm extremely overweight. I have no time to do anything, and I'm overwhelmed, and I don't know what to do. And it's that sense of helplessness. And I've, experienced this helplessness so many times in my life, even, as I was going through high school and college. I mean, until I lost that weight. But once again, it was for the wrong reasons. And so I think we're going to go into...
I was just going to make a comment there.
Okay.
I think this is not uncommon, and in my own story of sorts, like food, when everything else is overwhelming and you don't really know where else to turn, food becomes almost a therapist of sorts, but it's a very unhelpful therapist. And that's kind of what I hear too. It's like, that was kind of the only outlet you saw to be accessible, or whatever role it did play. But would you say that would be...
Yeah. It brought me joy. I mean, there's nothing like when you take a bite out of a peanut butter Snickers. It's just so fantastic. The texture, the flavor, it's amazing. But, you don't feel good 5 minutes after you eat it. You're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And it's just like you get stuck falling down. And then like the second you stand up and you want to walk up the hill, you're like, oh my gosh, it just got higher. And so you start walking up, and then you fall back down, and you keep going till you're at the very bottom. And it's really hard to climb a mountain that feels impossible, that feels hopeless.
So what was the process of shifting from like shame as a motivating factor to kind of take the reins of your health and to start going in a different direction?
Well, I mean, honestly, that didn't happen until after we had met. When I met Erika, son was about 6 months old, I want to say. And we became very good friends right off the bat, and we were friends for years. I mean, she would always bring me random things to my work and drop it off, like Mod pizza gift cards. I mean, and I really appreciated that, because at the time I was not fighting for my fighting for my health. I was fighting for
Yeah.
me being out of debt. That's where my focus was. I wanted to be out of debt. And, you know, all throughout this time, my confidence was shattered. You know, my identity was in all of the screw up things that I've done and all of the, you know, failures that I've had. That's where my identity was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just more focused on, okay, you know, if I can be out of debt, that's great. My identity was in things like, okay, if I have this nice gym membership and I have this nice truck, people will think that I'm okay when I'm destroyed inside. And so me and Erika, we had many conversations about this. Like that's not what defines who you are. You are more than a truck and a gym membership or a, you know, cable bill or whatever. And so, you know, she was a hardcore vegetarian at the time, and I was a hardcore eat whatever the heck I want.
Pizzatarian.
Oh, that pizza. Let me tell you something.
Nope, we're not going to get on pizza on a bunny trail. But yeah,
okay.
no, I mean, we've both evolved a lot. Like I was a vegetarian for years. And it's just one of those things, like your health needs do change over time. And it's so important. Like that's what I was doing in the name of health. And it didn't make sense for my health. It reached a point where it was not serving me anymore. And so I had to shift as well. So, I mean, my journey has looked a lot different too over the course of the last couple of years. Yeah. But so we met, and while we were friends, I did observe you go on a lot of kind of the yo-yo diets, maybe 3-day juice cleanse, you know, from your local juice shop or whatever. But it just always felt like you were white knuckling it. And there was that as soon as, you know, you fell off the wagon, it was just like, okay, back to square one, or, you know, I can't do this because I made, you know, one deviation from the plan. So speak to us about that. And what was your mindset at that point?
Well,
during yo-yo dieting.
Yeah. Well, my mindset during that was just don't go up anymore. Like if I got to 250, I would get myself down so I could go back up to 250 and then go back down. I didn't have a plan.
Yeah. And I can speak to though, even like the motivation piece of, I know you had told me a lot as well that you didn't believe you were worthy of love again or getting married or you could ever find a girl if you didn't lose the weight or look better. So was that a factor in motivating those yo-yo diets? Like trying to...
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think that goes for a lot of people. Sometimes, or a majority of the time when we go out, we're trying to impress. Mm-hmm. And like, when I look in the mirror, I'm like, what's impressive about this? Like I'm fat and divorced. Like that's literally my thought. And so,
but I do think, and we're both learning, like the hardest person to impress is ourselves. Like as far as that is the most important thing. Like, are you proud of yourself? And that translates into how you present yourself in a relationship. But before you get there, it is all about the external. Absolutely. And that can be an easy trap to fall into.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then over the course of our first year and a half of marriage, actually talk about your accident, what role that played.
So I got rear-ended when I was stopped, and I got a herniated disc in my low back, and then I had 2 bulging discs. And you know, I was doing chiropractic work, and I had a buddy who was like, you should try ozone therapy. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? I've never heard of this. But I was desperate. So I went and I tried it, and I was getting ozone injections. Long story short, my back is progressively healed so much in the past 2 years since my accident. And I can't believe it's almost been 2 years.
Yeah. This was our first introduction to naturopathic medicine, which is so different. People come to you and are like, I want to see naturopath and I want to get the supplement and I want to be better tomorrow. And it doesn't work like that. Like, because in a natural approach to healing, you work with your body's natural healing process, and your body doesn't heal in a second. And so I think that was also so huge. And like, this has been the long haul in his recovery. It wasn't just a cortisol shot. It wasn't even just a surgery. It was like he had to be willing to show up for these treatments for a year before he saw really much progress, and he stayed committed and faithful to it because it's that important that he got his function back and wanted to be able to, lift his son again without pain and whatnot. So I think that's actually a really good introduction to what you're now learning about the natural process of gaining health.
Yeah. Yeah. And, with that, ozone injections, the amount that I had injected into me, I was like a human pincushion. I mean, so many different injections. And I had never been to a naturopath before. I thought they were just some like weird little lotions, potions, and sing kumbaya and you'll get better type of people. I didn't know what that was. And so that was really big for me to actually understand that, oh, wait, you're using natural things to actually naturally heal my back. So that way I don't have to go get surgery. Thank goodness I didn't, because I'd really be in a bad spot right now if I did. So it really started the whole turning of the wheels in my brain. And then really, Erika started walking through a time of sickness. She talks about this in her other podcast earlier. And so once again, after we were married, I went into this. I just need to hold the fort. I don't care about myself. All I care about is making sure my wife's taken care of. She's okay. I mean, she's barely staying awake for the hours that she's awake. I mean, literally it was so rough. Like no energy, couldn't do. I mean, literally it was like
I missed like every holiday for the first year of our marriage. Every holiday I was sick and in bed, like literally everyone.
I mean, it was like zombie wife. No emotion, no smile. It's like literally I had to take my fingers and push your face up to smile, and you'd still be like, what are you doing? There was nothing.
So you kind of went back into that survival mode, like I'll take care of myself later, but that's not important right now. So also, I think throughout this, you were always kind of, I don't know, I always kind of heard you saying, oh, I want to lose weight. It was kind of like in the back of your mind of like, oh, I need to lose weight, like whatever. Yeah. But the things that, you would go on also these kind of short stunts of little things like, and it was still not something you were able to stay consistently to. So at that point, what was your motivating factor? You did want to lose weight, but what was happening there?
Well, I mean, I still did it for the wrong reasons. I wanted to do it for you, for my son, and I wanted to look good physically. But at that point in time, like I didn't know why I wanted to do it. I mean, I wanted my body to feel better, obviously. So I actually went on HCG and I lost 30 pounds on that, but it's not a sustainable diet. And it actually really hurt my body while I was doing it. So I put on 20 pounds back after that because I, once again, did not have my why. So we moved here to our new place, and we kind of figured out what was going on with Erika, and I started to see her blossom. She got laid off from a job, and she started to really blossom, launching Worth Wellness and, finding her zone and finding who she is and all this stuff. And she starts talking about body partnership. And, as a guy, I'm like, I don't really know what that means. Hi, I'm going to partner with you, body. It sounds funny to me when I first heard it. I was like, okay, I don't know what that even means. But I wanted to understand. And so I felt myself like, okay, I need to figure out, if I try this diet. And a lot of the times I was doing this diet, it was to make you happy. So because I know you would always express this as a big deal to me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to do it for her, and I like you said, I was white knuckling through it. And when you're white knuckling through something, it's never going to happen. It can't stick because you don't want to do it. And like the juice cleanse and then the other my college diet that I was going to do, that's absolutely ridiculous. Just didn't happen. So as I see you evolve in a person, as a person, body partnership, I really while I'm at work and while, you're asleep, I'm really thinking about these things. Body partnership. Now what is body partnership? You tell them.
A body partnership is all about making healing your way of life and your lifestyle and becoming connected to your body so that when it speaks, you know how to hear it, you know how to respond, you're thinking of it, you're considering it, and every decision you do, like, how will this either help or hurt my body? Like, will this help or hurt my body? The way you eat, the way you move is all decided by thinking of your body as your best friend. How would you treat your best friend? What kind of consideration would you take when figuring out how to live? And so I think the other element too, like the deeper layer to this that I've discovered on my own journey is like, I thought thin would make me happy. Like I thought the smaller I could be, the happier I would be, and I could solve my problems by being thin. And instead of actually looking at what the problems were, it was just get thin and they go away. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think that's kind of a belief a lot of people think, like, if I can get the body I've always wanted, this feeling I can't handle inside will dissipate and I'll feel better. And the reality is you in a big, a larger size body or a smaller body doesn't make you feel better. If you can't address your emotional pain at one size, what makes you think you can address it at another size? And that is also what, like, part of the natural medicine approach is. It gives you, part of the process of healing is like, it's not just one thing. It's not just one supplement. It's not just one treatment. It's incorporating all the elements like body, mind, spirit, as well. And so for me, yes, I did see a naturopathic doctor and it took me a year to heal from my gut dysfunction. But a big part of that was like actually addressing the emotional pain that had gotten me to the place where I couldn't get out of bed. And so I think, like, for your story, it's different than mine, obviously. But I do think that played a role too. And I saw that this idea of like, I will feel better about myself if I get back to this, you kind of idealized your college days a lot, to that certain body type or whatever. And I think that's kind of changed now in your approach now. How has that changed?
Well, just one thing you hit on is you would always tell me you need to take time for yourself. Mm-hmm. And for 4 years, I was raising a little boy, and I'm like, what do you mean take time for myself? Like I'm like, I got to do, kind of like you are with it. I got to be doing this. Like, I'm like, well, I got to take care of this. I got to go to work. I got to take, make sure everyone's fed and, we got enough that I'm providing. And so that's the mindset that I was getting into. But what was your question?
So the whole idea that getting to a different body size will make me love myself.
Oh yeah. That wasn't true, because when I got down to my lower weight in college, I still didn't love myself. Mm-hmm. When I looked in the mirror, I still thought that I was fat, even though I didn't have nearly as much fat as I did. I flat stomach, no love handles, nothing. And so that was really, really not a good reason, because I didn't do it for the right reason. And so, Erika has really been pushing on me, take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself so that way you can be there for us. And I'm like, okay, you got to rearrange the words as you're saying. Okay, I'm taking care of myself so that way I can be there for them, instead of like, I'm going to be there for you and then I'm going to take care of myself. Wait, if I put myself first, then I can actually be there to take care of both of you, because I'm taking care of myself. And so I started to change my mindset. And I just thought about this today. So I used to have, when I had Facebook, I'm not a huge social media person, so the fact I have Instagram is incredible. I haven't had it for years, but I used to have this picture that said, as my background said, train insane or remain the same. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, that talks about the blood, sweat, tears that I used to preach when I was losing all this weight. Like, I was mentoring other people that were like, how did you lose this weight? And I was like, I loved training, and I loved, working with these people to help them lose the weight too. But what I realized is that you can train insane, but if your mind is not trained, how are you going to be able to remain in this in this lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, train and sane remain the same. Well, that should be applied to your brain health as well, your mental health as well. You need to train your brain just as hard as you train your body.
Yeah.
You should probably train your brain more than you train your body, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you train your brain, you control your food, you control your you control your and everything. It's really an interesting thing that I just thought of today. And yeah, so I think we were going to jump into the keto segment here in a minute. So yeah, I don't know how many months ago, probably 3, 4, 5 months ago. Erika,
longer, since like November last year.
Okay, it's been that long.
This year's been a blur. We all know 2020.
Yeah, so she texted me one day that she was on the keto diet, and immediately red flags went up because I know her history of eating disorders and whatnot. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to stop right now. What are you doing? And because I only knew what dirty keto was. And this is about the time where I started to pay more attention to what Erika was doing, and the way her body was feeling, the way that she was starting to heal. And like, okay, maybe food can heal your body. Maybe these natural practices can heal your body. Maybe this body partnership thing isn't so crazy after all. Not that I thought it was crazy, but it was just
does that actually work?
Yeah. Like, are you,
yeah.
I'm going to have a mantra. Congrats. You don't really think about that. And especially, when you're skeptical of yourself, you become skeptical of everything.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I saw Erika going through this. And so I did a version of the keto diet for a little bit. And then I fell off the wagon because I still wanted to eat and I wasn't doing the intermittent fasting or anything like that. And so finally we had a long talk one day. I don't remember all the stuff we talked about, but I felt like we finally were starting to identify name calling and things, shame calling and talking about different things.
Shame names. There's a podcast episode where I talk about identifying your shame names and reframing the mantras so they don't hold you captive anymore around those shame names. And so he started to realize what his shame names were, and that was big for you.
Yeah. And so one of the things was I wasn't consistent. I'm not reliable. I'm a failure. I'm this, I'm fat. I had so many shame names that I didn't realize that I had. And so I really hated myself. So I started getting to the point, I started reading some of the books Erika had read, and like the Bulletproof Diet and
Mark Hyman, What the Heck Should I Eat?
What the Heck Should I Eat? Great doctors, and they talk about the anti-nutrients in plants and vegetables, and I'm like, what? I knew it. I'm just kidding. But it really started to change the way I thought. I'm like, okay, so this whole medical field that says, if you break your arm, says ice it or take this pill, like they don't actually treat the problem. Like, I need a cast, dude, reset the bone, but they don't do that. That's a silly example, but I really had to look and start examining, okay, what do I believe? Okay, this naturopathic doctor has been healing my back, and Erika's healing her body.
Yeah.
She's growing outside of herself. She's, for lack of a better, breaking through her shell and becoming a beautiful butterfly. She doesn't have the lifespan of a butterfly. But yeah, it's just beautiful to watch. So that inspired me. So then I started asking myself, why? Why do I want to do this? And my why was like, okay, I'm worried about you guys, but I'm going to worry about myself. I want to be around for a long time. I want to, see my son graduate, get married, have kids, meet their kids, and be with my wife for a long time so we can enjoy the rest of our life together and all of our adventures and conquests that we have. And I think for me, I just really want to step into a new world and to see, okay, is what she's teaching and what she wants to do in her business and in her life, actually, can it work for anyone? Because I'm like, I don't know. Because I've had plenty of personal trainers, I've had plenty of diets, and I've had plenty of things. So I'm like, you know what? I am the complete. I mean, we've talked about this. I'm the person that she is not targeting to get coached by her. I'm like the complete opposite. And so I'm like, all right, why am I doing this? Because I want to be fit. I don't like when I have to bend over to tie my shoes that I'm huffing for breath. Like, why should I be huffing for breath to tie my shoes? Because my stomach's in the way. So, and
but deeper than that, what did you want to feel?
I wanted to feel healthy on the inside. I wanted to believe that I was not a piece of crap, that I wasn't lazy, that I wasn't all these shame names that we talked about. I didn't want to believe those anymore. And how do you do that? What's the first thing? You start talking positively to yourself, which is what we've been doing a lot the last week or so, talking body affirmation and lifting ourselves up. And so anyway, a month ago, I started on the ketogenic diet, the clean version. Erika, I give all the props to her because she has literally cooked me all my meals. And I mean, she made me a steak today that melted in my mouth. It was just incredible. And so the difference on this diet is, one, I'm doing intermittent fasting. So I started out doing 16 hours of no eating, 8-hour window of food. Mm-hmm. And then recently I just switched to 18-6, which is a little more challenging, but I'm noticing great results. I'm feeling better. And one of the things that I continuously am noticing is that I write on the board every day my updates and my stats. That keeps me motivated. I'm like, okay, I can do this. But one of the biggest things was building block is consistency. That is the building block to this. Because so many times I went on these 28-day fad diets because I want to sprint to the end zone. I want to have a six-pack tomorrow. I want to go to sleep, wake up, and look like the Wolverine, But that's not how it works. And as I've seen with, all my injections for my back and how it's healed, it takes time. And so I really am blessed to have Erika here because she's able to encourage me and support me and be there for me through this journey. And so as I'm losing this weight, and as the way I look at myself and talk to myself and speak to myself is changing, I am someone that hated myself, and I didn't even know it. So many people, I think, hate themselves, but don't realize why they do what they do. And that was me. And don't get me wrong, there are still times where I start talking negatively. Like today, I said something jokingly, but it's weird how my body responded. Like it kind of got all of a sudden like self-conscious right in there. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like,
I like to say your cells can hear you.
Yeah.
Like, don't say that. Your cells can hear you.
I started talking to my arms and my stuff. I was like,
they're
sorry,
sad.
guys.
They're crying.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're amazing. Go mitochondria.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so to speak to that whole idea of this isn't a sprint, this is, the long haul. It's what I've talked about before in other podcasts about like healing cannot be hurried. And part of the healing is deciding to stick with yourself for the long haul and to show up every day for yourself, even if you don't even feel better yet. And that's what I had to do. Like I had to stop resenting at the fact that my stomach hurt and I couldn't eat any food and start being like, okay, I know this is really hard for you to eat food. Like I'm here for you. Even if you don't feel better today, like I'm going to show up and I'm going to love you, body, no matter what. And I'm going to do the things that you do if you love yourself before you see change. And I think that's what you're doing now is like, this isn't the immediate fast pill to, body composition transformation, but you're showing up every day for your body saying, I'm going to care for you in the way that is best for you. Even if we don't see massive results today, I'm just going to stick with it. I'm going to stay loving you every day. Yeah. And in that process, you don't just heal your body, you heal your mind. And that's part of the process and that's a really important element to it.
Yeah. And I would say that too. I think when I started this journey, it was definitely like, I want to lose the weight, but I'm starting to realize like I need to heal my mind.
Yeah.
And when I heal my mind, I start to heal my body, and the weight just it's you got to trust the process.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you hear when you're in sports all the time. Trust the process. Go through and take care of your mind, and like the rest follows. Because once you have a powerful mind, there's nothing that can stop you. Like we were talking the other day, like all of a sudden I'm starting to get more ambition again. I'm starting to want to, I'm like, well, what do I actually want to do with my life? Like when I grow up, what do I want to do? And that's changing.
What have been some of the obstacles that you've faced as you've started in the last month engaging in this new lifestyle?
Well, I will definitely say that it's hard. Like when we go out to restaurants on a weekend where we don't have our son with us, it's like I go to a restaurant and I'm like, I just want to eat this food. Like this should be okay. And then it's like, well, why? Well, because you have a connection or a tradition that you eat crappy food when you go out, but that's not necessarily good. Make a new trend, make a new tradition. So this past weekend when we went out, I changed my okay, I'm going to eat this, and it was actually really good, and I didn't feel like crap afterwards. And so it's making those changes there, and then while you're at work or whatever, like for me this time, I didn't announce to the world that I was on a diet, because that is what I did every diet. I announced to the world, and then I had 50 excuses the next day as why I can't do that because I got a splinter in my toe or something. It doesn't make any sense, but that is what I did. And so I have a different vision in my head now. When you're in sports, I'm a big sports guy. You visualize what you're going to do. It's visualization. And so like literally I'm visualizing consistency. I'm like, I've been at it for a month. So I started off at 219 pounds on this ketogenic food eating diet. And today I'm down to 205 pounds. I'm not exercising. I'm not working out. I am doing stretches when I can, and I have tried yoga, kind of fell out of that, but I noticed a huge benefit when I was doing yoga. Like my body felt really good. But like when you start seeing the results and you start seeing it go down slow, like, you might see your first 2 pound goes off and you're like, oh, that's only 2 pounds. And then like thinking 14 pounds, like in the past, I've been like, that's only 14 pounds in a month. Oh, that's not enough. And then I would go right back to eating. But this time I'm like, no, it's consistency. What am I gonna be mentally, spiritually, physically in 6 months from now, in a year from now? My goal is not tomorrow. My goal is a year from now. The person I'm going to be, and changing that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to think about like what the gain is not just like the personal gain is not just the weight loss. It's what you gain in the process of losing the weight that's actually most valuable. If that's your goal, if that's what you need to do in order to optimize your health, is you want to get to a different body composition. And I think that's what you're learning, and what I want you to speak to more so is like, forget the numbers. Like, what are you seeing along the process as far as like the other gains?
Oh man. First, I would say my emotion regulation. Once I eliminated all the sugar, the toxins, which sugar is a drug. And
acts like a drug in your brain.
Acts like a drug in your brain, yeah. Like the way that my body reacts to stressful situations, as far as, dealing with my son, like I don't get as loud. Things don't bother me like they used to. And it's incredible. Like I'm thinking clear. my confidence is boosted because I'm speaking kindness to myself. Like when I'm walking down the street, hi, you have a great shadow. It sounds stupid, but it works.
Yeah.
My sleep is improving. My blood sugar regulation, which goes into the emotional side,
Stability,
like it's not going up and down like it was. Literally chugging energy drinks and all that stuff just messed so much with me. My energy is up. And I just feel more balanced overall as a person, which has been really, really, really good. And not only that, but it's really improved our marriage and our closeness and, you know, the way that we're able to attack this together. Like it's hard to describe, but it's just like it opened up a whole new level of our relationship doing this new life challenge, which is, yes, ketogenic diet, but it's also a mental training that we are embarking, because I know for you definitely have a very negative self-talk to yourself.
That's something I've had to work a lot on. Yeah. It's a huge part of when you experience disordered eating and whatnot. A lot of that is fueled by self-hatred, and you have a narrative in your head that you listen to that's programmed very negative about yourself. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely been in our own ways a part of both of our journeys is recovering from such self-deprivating, you know, way of speaking to our bodies and to ourselves. And it is really definitely helpful when the people closest to you are on a journey where they're valuing that as well. And I think for me, that was really important because I think you do respect people more when you see they respect themselves. And I think for me, like taking care of your body is an act of self-love and self-respect. And that does really change the dynamic of a relationship when you both are first caring for your own bodies. And then your ability to care for and to show up for each other is better, obviously. And yeah, I just think it has really strengthened our relationship to have this now be our whole family's way of life and not just one person. Yeah. So that's been really instrumental. So what do you think can sabotage people's attempts once they've decided, you know what, I'm going to take my health and well-being seriously and want to start making steps towards my best self?
Well, I mean, it depends on what it is. Like, I didn't realize that I self-sabotaged until I started applying these things and thought, okay, why do I do the things that I do? And so for you got to sit down and you got to identify that. Like, why do you self-sabotage? What do you hate about yourself? What are you trying to hide? Like, you got to ask yourself that why question. Why am I doing this to myself? And until you answer that question, you can't do this. You need to figure out why you are doing it and what's holding you back. Now, while I've been on this diet, I will tell you, you still get cravings. You still think about all these unhealthy foods. But the difference is I have my why now. I have my motivation. I have my support. And I want more. Once you put on the table why you are doing this, it changes. And you say, no, I don't want that. And then you think about, how is it going to make me feel 5 minutes, 10 minutes after? I'm going to feel like a failure. I'm going to feel, and you're going to go back into your self-negative talk. Just don't give into it. If you do give into it, don't dwell on it. Short-term memory. It's like if you're playing a basketball game, you shoot a shot and you miss. And if you sit there and dwell on every single shot that you miss, you will not play well. If you mess up, bounce back and get back on where you're going, because you will thank yourself in the long run. And going strong for 4 weeks now. The difference is I'm not doing a 28-day diet, which is what I've done in the past. 28-day diets are meant to make you feel good for 1 month out of the year so you can tell everyone that, oh, I did that before and I'll do it again in January.
Yeah. And those sorts of things make me feel really sad about the body, because it's like, oh, body, I'll care for you for 28 days. And when that's over, no more love. You don't get any more love. And I think, oh, that just makes me so sad.
Yeah.
And I think it's a mind shift that has to take place when it comes to you've determined and committed yourself to be consistent in a certain way of eating or a certain way of moving, because you're trying to advance in a certain direction for your specific health goals and individuality. And instead of, because I could look at that in my own healing journey of the last year, you could say I had to do some really limited things as far as like what my gut could tolerate, or even what I could take on outside of just life, because I was so depleted. And that could seem limiting, but it's important to look at it this way of like, these are the parameters for your path to healing. So like this little narrow lane is your little lane to healing. And it's your lane to freedom and liberation from whatever it is that's holding you back. And so when I started to embrace that process of, me having to eat, my little blended veggies or whatever, because that's all my stomach could stomach. Like, instead of, complaining about that or getting annoyed, it's like, this is my path. This is the path that I'm on, that I am committed to for my health, to regain health. And it's not forever. It's just a path. And I think too, like, I mean, who knows whether or not we're going to, do keto forever. Like, it's just making sure that you do the work of figuring out what it is your body specifically needs. And then you commit to doing it for however long you need to in order to regain your health.
Yeah. I do know that, until you find your why, obviously, if you don't do it for yourself, you will fail. And not only that, you're going to add another thing into your shame bag, to your guilt bag. Because every time that I failed on all these yo-yo diets while we were married, I mean, I felt so guilty. I felt terrible. I felt shame. I mean, I didn't believe in myself. And that was the biggest thing is I didn't really want it myself, because I didn't believe that I deserved it. And, you need to look yourself in the mirror, say, I am worth it. No pun intended. And start talking kindly to your body. Start talking kindly to yourself. And you're going to sound silly when you do it, and I encourage you, if you have a friend, a spouse, somebody, sit down there and you both say affirmations about yourself to the other person. And it helps. Me and Erika have been doing that probably the last few days now. And it really helps the way that I look at myself, the way that I view myself. And then, to see her more confident than she's ever been in her entire life is extremely attractive to me. And it's super empowering. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, look at how much more confident she is in herself. Like, I want that. And so that also adds fuel to my fire. Like, I want to be that confident. I want to be that bold. I want to be. And so you start becoming more and more motivated, and just don't give up in this journey, whether you're doing the keto diet or not. And so, yeah.
Yeah. If you want to continue to follow your journey, if people want to follow your journey, babe, where do they find you?
So I'm on Instagram. That's the only social media I have. My name is Clean Keto Warrior. So in between clean, there's an underscore, and then after keto, there's an underscore. And you can find me on there. I think maybe Erika will post a link to my Instagram on whatever.
I'll put it both in the show notes.
Yeah. So you can follow me. I post. I have a really, really old phone, so I try to post videos a few times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. But if you guys want to, follow me, go ahead and do that. If you want to, message me or talk to me about stuff I'm going through or how to get started or whatever, you can reach out to me. But I also highly encourage you to reach out to Erika at Worth Wellness by Erika. She is a fantastic coach. You will not be disappointed in the way that she helps you along in your journey. But remember, coaching is just that. We can give you encouragement. We can give you some tools, some ideas, but you have to do the work. And that's, I think, one thing that Erika and I have learned is that she can't carry me along to the end, but she can encourage me. Mm-hmm. I felt like for a lot of times, like she would try and carry me and get there, but that doesn't work. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the time, the energy, and do it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, no one can heal you but you, in the sense of like, yeah, even a doctor can prescribe you a supplement or whatever. But if you don't take that, I mean, I've not taken supplements my doctor's given me. And then he's like, oh, are you experiencing any results? And I'm like, well, no. Well, are you taking it? Well, no. So it's like, you can't expect to get results from something you're not actually doing the work with. So I think that's really important, but it's also vital to have support. Bring someone else who you can trust, who's going to be a loving, supportive voice to encourage you along the way, whatever your health goals are and whatever your struggles are. And if you don't have anyone in your current life, Ben and I are definitely here to be that for you. So feel free to reach out if you just want help on where to get started, partnering with your body, whatever that means for where you're at, and to start, how to start from a place of love, I think is like my deepest passion, is how do we make any changes to whether that's, diet or fitness or lifestyle. Like it has to be motivated from a place of deep love and appreciation for the body you've been gifted to live in. So anyways, I think that's all for now. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you guys. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
See ya. I'm so glad you tuned in to the Worth Wellness podcast today. If you want to support our efforts to continue to bring great content to you week after week, please leave us a review and subscribe to the channel. You can also directly support the show following the link in the notes below. You can find me on Instagram, Worth Wellness by Erika, or if you want individualized support on your personal health journey, you can send me an email, worthwellness@gmail.com, and I would love to connect with you. All right, it's been a pleasure, friends. Stay well, live inspired, and keep learning.